Bob, I'm looking at the cover of your book, The Challenge, and you say on the cover, send me to any unemployment line. Let me select someone who is broke. Let me teach him in 2 days' time the secrets of wealth, and in 90 days, he'll be back on his feet with $5,000 cash in the bank. Is that a promise you can hold to?
That was the problem I did.
Yeah?
I actually went to the St. Louis,
So
Missouri.
this is real. This isn't
That's a real
a
in fact,
metaphor.
look on the back of that book, you see the pictures of the 3 people I selected, and it was for real. Yes, exactly. You know what I was teaching them?
Okay, yeah,
I was teaching
wanna
them
know.
what wealth is, because most people don't understand it. They think wealth is what the banker says it is. They think wealth is cash flow, job, credit, collateral, 4 C's. They want the 4 C's. Mm-hmm. And these people obviously had none of those 4 C's.
Yeah, they're in
They
the
had
unemployment
no cash,
line.
no credit, no cash flow, no collateral. They were broke. Okay? What I was trying to tell them is philosophically, that wealth is internal. You are your wealth. It's inside you. And it's your passion, it's your dreams, it's your persistence, it's your willing to push to get what you want, even if you don't have the resources that the banker thinks you should have. Mm-hmm. So what I was teaching my broke people here is they weren't broke, they had a temporary lack of the resources the banker wants, but they had wealth inside them. Wealth was the desire to be one of the people that I selected to work with. I wanted somebody who's willing to stand up and say, I want to do that. Give me 90 days. I'll starve to death for 90 days if I need to. Robert, teach me for 2 days what I need to do. And I did. I selected them. I was looking for the internal wealth first. As a matter of fact, as they came into the room, there were about 50 people showed up for that meeting that day. And I had handed out 1,000 flyers into the unemployment lines of St. Louis, Missouri. Yes. And only 50 people showed up the next day. And I'm thinking, are these people crazy? Or do they just want the unemployment check, or do they want to be wealthy? Well, probably not the right place to look for people who wanted to be wealthy, but 3 people showed up amongst the 50, and I had them fill out their little application, and took a little bit of time, and they came down the row, the aisle, and they handed their application in. What am I looking for? I couldn't tell their credit or their cash flow or I couldn't tell any of that stuff. I was looking for their internal wealth. And I was looking for somebody who looked me in the eye. And if they looked me in the eye, like, watch me. I'm going to do this, I put their application in my right hand. And if they wouldn't look me in the eye, I put their application in my left hand. Now, does that mean if they didn't look me in the eye that I couldn't help them? This was a really big risk for me personally. Because if I failed at this, it would reflect on my ability to teach other people. So I really wanted to win. So I was increasing the probability that I would find somebody who already had internal wealth. Mm-hmm. And if they look at me, I could tell they had a little bit of confidence. Could I help someone today if they look down, if they're a little bit shy, if they have fear? Yeah, I love fears. I realize what fears are and how you get rid of them fairly quickly. And so today I would say, find me somebody who has low self-esteem and watch me to change that person. But in this case, they looked me in the eye, and then I selected those 12 or 13 people. We interviewed them, and then we put the names up on the board of the 8 people we had selected out of like 20, I guess it was. If their name wasn't on the list, if they weren't one of the 8, those 12 people that we rejected, they never contacted me again. They never called me on the phone. They never came in the hotel where I stayed at. They believed the first rejection. And the secret to wealth is you never believe the first rejection. The first rejection is to see whether you're serious or not. And so these 8 showed up, and the 12 got rejected. The 8 we interviewed with the ex-mayor of St. Louis, Missouri, Mr. Pelker was his name. And he was a very beloved mayor in the city, a retired mayor. And we interviewed the 8, and then we contacted all 8 of them and rejected them all. We told them all.
You told them all no.
They had not been selected
on
purpose.
You wanted to see
exactly.
what they would do.
I wanted 3 of them. I wanted one, just one. Give me one, who would say, "Are you sure about that rejection? Are you sure? Because I had a dream that yada yada yada." 3 of them.
3 of them came
would not
back.
be rejected. They would not. One of the people I told them they needed to be unemployed, and she had a part-time job. Do you know what she did? She drove
quit.
to the bar where she was a barmaid, as a part-time barmaid. Her own house in foreclosure. 5 kids divorced in a house that's in foreclosure. She needs a little bit of money to feed those kids. She goes to the bar and quits, so she could honestly say she was unemployed. Her name was Nora, and I can't think about Nora without tearing up, because the next day when we showed up at her house, we rang the doorbell and said, "Nora, you're in." She took me up on the roof of her house. Literally, we crawled up on the roof of her house that morning when we told her she had been selected. And on the roof of her house, she'd taken the last like $1.79 to buy a can of spray paint. And she'd sprayed on the roof of her house, I can still see it, H-E-L-P. And she said, "Heavenly Father, I need some help."
Wow.
And do I love this woman? Oh my gosh. Do I want this woman to win? Oh my gosh. I wanted her to win because she was willing to do whatever it took. And so this process of selecting people was important. I needed to reject them. I wanted them to realize that if they didn't accept the rejection, they weren't going to win anyway. Because I'm going to send them in the marketplace with no cash, no credit, no collateral, nothing. And they're going to talk to real owners of real property. And those real owners are going to say, "Well, can you qualify? And, and how can I trust you?" And, they had to be able to buy a property from a seller, realizing that they themselves couldn't do any of the things that the banker wanted. None of them. And that's what a bird dog does. They find a deal, and then they flip it. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to have any of those things that the banker needs. You can make the quick cash. But there are 2 kinds of money. There's chunks of cash and streams of cash. And which do you want? Well, at first, you want chunks of cash. You want to flip, make quick cash, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months. I mean, that's a year. Anything less than a year is quick. And you want to make quick cash. Why? Because you got bills to pay, you got family to feed, and so if you don't have a job, you need to make some quick cash. But eventually, that's not what you want. Because you want to be if you are flipping, you're selling the deal, you're selling the property, the cash flow, the wealth, you're letting somebody else take that. And off they run and they make a fortune, and you end up with a little bit of chunks of cash. That's not what you want. You want to be the person who buys that property for streams of cash. So until you can afford to put the down payments together yourself, you're a bird dog. And then as soon as you put together enough resources for yourself, or you're buying a property with nothing down, so you don't need to use our resources, then you can start to invest of your own money, which is what happened with me. Like in the club I was talking about in another podcast, the club had the resources and I didn't, so I was a bird dog. As soon as I got the resources, I became the angel, the guy who has the cash, credit, cash flow, collateral. So that's what that book is so powerful about.
That's an amazing story. How can people get the book? What?
Oh, I want to give you that book. This book has changed so many lives.
Yeah.
And so I want you to read it. It's actually the real story of how I selected them and how and what I taught them and how they used that. The biggest thing you're going to learn is when an investor gets started, if you're a beginner, you'll come up with a thing you think is a deal. And you go, "Wow, this is a great deal." And as you become a seasoned investor, you realize that isn't even close to a good deal. And that's what these people were like. And you'll read the story of how they brought us deals for us to help them evaluate. Mm-hmm. And we say, "That's not a deal. Why'd you think that was a good deal?" Because at first, you need to learn through experience what works and what doesn't work. So this is my gift. Click on the link right here. Get a free copy of the challenge.
I think
how you can do it.
I think I have that link right here.
Here's the link.
It's uplife.com/the challenge.
Uplife.
Uplife.com.
That's this network that I'm on right now. Isn't that a great title? Upwork Network. The uplife.com/the
challenge.
The challenge.
And they can get it for free.
They can get it for free. By the way, there's a secret word hidden in the word, the challenge. You might notice it. I see it myself every day. It's challenge. See how it just kind of pops out at you? It's my name in the middle.
Alan is right in the middle of it.
Right in the middle of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So this is my gift to you. Read it. Let it change your life.
That's so awesome. You are a risk taker. I can tell. You've shared a number of stories about these challenges where you've had the media following you. You've made some outrageous claims and claimed to be able to, get X number of deals under contract in like 5 days. Crazy stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, has this ever blown up in your face? Has this ever?
Ooh, that's a great question. Not really. No. I've done probably 10 or 15 challenges, and that's my name, Challenge. And my first one was send me to any unemployment line. No, send me to any city, take away my wallet, give me a $100 bill, and in 72 hours I'll buy an excellent piece of real estate using none of my own money. The LA Times challenged me to do that one.
Yeah.
And with a reporter by my side, we bought 7 properties in 57 hours. Yeah. And I gave the reporter $20 back in change. The next challenge was, hey, the media didn't believe that. Yeah. And this was the LA Times, for crying out loud. So I said, well, send me to any unemployment line so that I can prove that anybody can do this.
Can do it, yeah.
And those two challenges together proved that what real wealth is not the external cash, credit, cash flow, collateral. It's the internal courage, commitment, chutzpah, confidence, clarity. Those are C words. That's stuff you build inside. From that is wealth. That's where wealth is created. I did another challenge where I said, somebody called me on the phone from a TV station in San Diego, and they said, hey, fly in, show us how you buy a property with nothing down, see if you can do it in a day. So I showed up in San Diego. We went from the airport, and it's all on camera. It took me to a hotel, the Hotel 8 in San Diego. We rented a room so we could have a place to do a little bit of work. I took a newspaper that had a lot of ads in it. I called the ads from that phone in the motel room. I found a property that I could buy with nothing down. We drove in the TV cameras crew to the property, negotiated the property, tied it up, and literally bought that property. I was back on the plane by 5 o'clock that night. So what I'm trying to teach all of you is that there are very few highly motivated sellers in the marketplace because real estate agents ruin it for everybody. Why do they? Because they are begging for listings. And now today, is it hard to find a listing? No. Oh, it's really hard. So they beg and they say to the seller, I can get you big money for your property. What do you think it's worth? They say 400, 500,000, 800,000, whatever. And they go, I can get you 850. So they've already planted the wrong message in your buyers, right? I mean, the seller, sorry, from the very beginning. Wrong thing. So they all think retail. Yeah. And this ruins the properties for us. I like for sale by owners because they haven't been ruined yet. And I like realtor investors, a realtor who understands how to find highly motivated sellers. And they usually buy the properties first. But every once in a while, they'll let one slip through to you. And therefore, the situation has been ruined. But the point is, every marketplace has a few of those. So in this case with me going to San Diego, I knew that 99% of all the advertising I would read anywhere, online, offline, and 99% of all the listings as a real estate agency were going to be retail properties, the wrong deals. Mm-hmm. But 1%, I'm very good at discovering the 1%. That's my secret sauce. And so when I show up in San Diego, I know what I'm looking for. I know how to read the ad. I know how to read the listings. And therefore, I know when I call that, I'm going to ask my certain questions, and I'm going to get a certain response. And if I like the response, if this property scores a certain score, in this case, it's 11 or more. If it scores 11 or more, I need to go look at that property. Mm-hmm. And before I find a property that scores an 11 or more, I don't look at anything. Why? You don't have time. You're going to look, you talk to the realtor, talk to the seller, find out, asking 5 simple questions, what the property scores. Does it fit your parameters, not the seller's parameters?
Are you able to share with us what some of those questions are? What are you looking for on these deals?
Well, that's part of the secret sauce. I can't, okay, I'll tell you what they are. Okay, some of them
Twisted your arm.
I call it secrets, but the reason it's a secret is because nobody does it.
Right. I feel like you're the guy that does
Yeah.
things that anybody could do, but
Yeah.
nobody does.
They don't do it because of fear. Remember we talked about that. Fear. It stops people. It's expensive. Don't do it. So when I showed up in San Diego, I'm going to look at something that scores high and it looks good. It has clues. I'm looking for the clues. I find the clues, I call. I'm going to ask them 5 questions. First of all, you've all heard location.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want a bad location. So I'm going to ask, is this in a good or a bad location? And the seller's going to tell me whether it's good or bad. They may be lying to me, but I'm going to go with their word first. Second of all, what's the condition? Is it good or is it bad? If it's bad, I don't want it. Can I make money with a bad condition? Yeah, you can if you like to fix up. I don't like to fix up. I want to find a property that has a people problem, not a property problem.
Yeah.
A property problem means it's a dog, it's in the wrong location, it's
Decrepit,
it's horrible. And a lot of people, they look for that. They look for the ugly house, look for ugly houses. I don't like ugly houses. Now that doesn't mean that you can't buy an ugly house.
You've just
but
found your lane.
I'm trying to lower the risk.
Uh-huh.
So therefore, I'm looking for a really narrow parameters for the right property with the lowest amount of risk. Because, see, I teach people all over the world on how to become a beginning real estate investor. And as I said to my people in the unemployment lines, they were beginners and they didn't get it at first. So sometimes it takes time to have them to get what I means by a good deal and a bad deal. So I'm going to ask them, what's the location? What's the condition? What's the financing? What do you need? Do you need some cash? Do you need to be refinanced? Do I have to get a hard money lender or a hard loan, a mortgage, a new mortgage? And if it does, that means it's not going to do well on my scoring system. I don't want a property to have to refinance.
Okay.
Now, do some properties that are profitable need to be refinanced? Yeah, of course. But I'd like to find one where the seller owns the property outright, owns 100% of it. They're not going to ask the seller to be a banker.
Looking for a
Exactly.
tiny niche.
Tiny, narrow, 1%. But in that 1%, millions of dollars in that 1%.
So it's worth digging for.
Exactly. The rest of it, there's not a lot of money in it. It's like diamonds and sand and gravel. And the 1% is the diamonds, and 99% is the gravel. It's worthless. And as you drive to work every day, you're looking at gravel, and every once in a while, there's a diamond. And you go, oh, I need to look at that one. Mm-hmm. And then you proceed with the next question, which is, what about the seller's flexibility? Why is this seller selling? Because if they don't have a real reason that motivates them to sell, then they're just doing the realtor game, which is, I'll get you as much money as you can. I'll get you more than you thought you could get. And then you can spend it on whatever you want to spend it. I don't like that. I want a highly motivated seller. And then finally,
what makes a person motivated to sell? Like beyond just saying, I want money out of my property.
Yeah. Well, it spells the word don't wanter conditions. What is a don't wanter? A don't wanter is a person who don't want their real estate.
Yeah.
Right? They don't want it. And so
a newbie might look at that and say, who wouldn't want their real estate?
It's the hard people. It's hard for a person to get that because they go, I would never do that.
Never do that. Yeah.
Why would anybody do? I wouldn't do that. But you've never been a don't wanter before, and that means when the property itself is a burden to you. So death, that's a D. Divorce, another D. Sickness, that's the S. Taxes, that's a T. Don't wanter conditions. It's it's an acronym, and every one of them represents a reason.
Yeah.
Some of these reasons, you have to be looking for people who have problems. You just do, and they're very rare. I'm not telling you that it isn't rare. It's rare. And therefore, you're going to buy 1 or 2, 3, maybe if you're a real full-time major investor, you're going to buy 5 properties in a year. But you can buy 1 property this year that will equal or exceed your current yearly salary now.
Yeah.
You can do that. So you have a year. And therefore, you're looking for the right deal. And as soon as you find it, you need to pounce because they're gone. And sometimes they come on the market and they're there for 1 day and then they're gone. So you have to be ready to pounce. You need to have while you're looking for the deal, you're looking for the money. So when you're networking with people and clubs you belong to and churches and groups you belong to, they can say, what do you do for a living? And you tell them, I buy real estate bargains. Now, maybe you've never bought a real estate bargain, but that's what your description is.
Yeah.
I buy real estate bargains. And then they go, really? And you go, like what? And then you pick an example of a property that you've heard of or read about in some book somewhere, and you explain that property. The property's worth $250. The seller was desperate, needed to sell. It was a hot market, but they never really knew about the market. I bought it for $150. I flipped it and sold I made $25,000. I would have liked to partner with that one for somebody since we would have made the 50, and that partner could have made $25,000. And then they go, well, find one like that for me. I'll split the profit with you. One example was a student who found a property that was a hot deal and advertised to flip it, to sell it to his city because he was looking for the financial resources. He'd found it and tied it up, but he didn't have any money and he didn't have any resources. So he put an ad in the paper, and you can do this online everywhere, wherever you advertise. And he put an ad in the paper saying, this is the property. It's about $100,000 below the market. If you're interested, please contact me. Guess what happened? Dozens of people contacted him. What did that do? He now has 24 people with the money. And so he says to them, unfortunately, I just sold it. It's gone. I'm sorry. If I find another one like that, would you like it? I'll put you on my list.
Yeah.
I have 10 people on my list. You'll be number 11. If I call you with a deal like this, it's got to happen quickly. I'm going to call you, and you're going to have less than 24 hours to make a decision. If you don't want it, I'm going to give it to somebody else. But if you want it, let's do it. And therefore, how did they find their partners? Through an ad in the paper. So there's just so many little tricks like that to find money, to find people with money, with the resources that you don't have, that you need in order for you to make your first deals, and off you go. I love real estate. It's fun. And when you read books, they're usually boring. They teach you the basic fundamentals way. I like the unconventional ways of making money.
So.
I like the creative ways of making money. I mean, I have to teach you how to think creatively. That means you can't think like a conventional thinker. This is the way realtors think. You can't think like that. You have to think out of the box. And is there money out of the box? Oh, big money out of the box. But it takes a little while to kind of learn how to think that way. You get your hand slapped a time or two. People will look at you strangely like, you're not the ordinary person. You're not ordinary. You're extraordinary.
So would you say that through all of this, doing all these challenges, would you say that rejection just fuels you, that it just makes you excited?
Here's a question that you ask yourself when somebody tells you you can't do it.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to tell you that many, many times in your lifetime. How do you respond? How should I respond to this person who is telling me that I can't do it?
Yeah.
And there are two kinds of people in life. There's employees and entrepreneurs. An entrepreneur has a different mindset. They're born that way. I think you can learn it, but it's just part of your DNA. And when somebody tells you you can't do it, you respond back by saying, you're telling me I can't do it? I'm going to do it just because you told me I can't do it. In other words, because you told me I can't do it, I must do it.
Yeah.
If it feels right, if it's intuitively right. But an employee-minded person, they like security, they like safety, they don't like to take risks. That's why 6 out of 7 people in our country, which is the greatest entrepreneurial nation on the planet. There are more millionaires in America than the second major country. There are 22 million millionaires in America. Number 2 is China with only 5 million. So we think totally differently when it comes to entrepreneurship. And even in our country, only 1 in 7 is an entrepreneur. And the employees, they want safety. Entrepreneurs, they want freedom. And so when somebody limits their freedom by saying, you can't do that, you say, I want freedom. I want the freedom to be able to do what you said I can't do. This is how I discovered that I was an entrepreneur. My dad was an employee his entire life, but my grandfather was an entrepreneur, and the genes came through to me.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it because I'd been trained by my dad to be an employee. So when I came to the university, I thought I would get a job working for a corporation. I sent out my 30 letters to the biggest corporations in the world: General Motors, General Foods, General Electric, General Mills. I literally sent letters to those 4 companies and 26 others, and they all, 30 of them, sent me a letter saying, you don't belong in our company. And they rejected me, and I was devastated. And I laid those letters out on my bed, and I thought, I just spent 6 years of my life to work as an employee at somebody else's company. And after a few days, really, I said to myself, wait a minute, who are these people that signed this letter? This person signed the letter, that person signed this letter, this 30 people. One day, I'll make more money than all 30 of these people combined, because I was challenged by that. And so if you're an entrepreneur, when somebody tells you you can't do it, something in you goes, wait a second, you want to prove them wrong somehow. Maybe that's not a mature way of thinking, got to prove them wrong. But frankly, at first, we're not mature. At the very beginning, we're kind of beginners at this thing called life. And so for many, this challenge really pushes them to the limit. So yes, I am challenged by that word, challenge. And so I went to Boston and did a challenge. I went to Miami and did a challenge. I went to New York. I was on a talk show in New York City. And no, it was Washington, D.C. And I got a newspaper, and I found the clues and did the calling and found the property I wanted to look at. I got in a taxi and I drove to that property that night. I negotiated with the seller that night and got a nothing down deal. And I came back to my hotel room the next morning, like 9 o'clock in the morning, for this talk show live in front of Washington, D.C. They said, you can't buy a property with nothing down. And I said, well, I did it last night. And I showed them the paperwork. And I told the seller, you got to watch TV tomorrow because I'm going to be talking about us. And I said to the seller on TV, I ripped it up. I said, don't sell this property to me. You've already bought another house. You should keep this one and rent it out. Because once this is paid off, this is a cash cow for the rest of your life and for your children's lives and for your grandchildren's lives. It's a pumping cash forever. So don't sell this one. Keep it. And so I gave it back. But, you can do it in 24 hours. If you know what you're looking for, if you know those 5 questions that we talked about, off you go. And I challenge you. In fact, I challenge you. You can't do this. Other people could do it, but you couldn't do it. Just go get your job. Just keep it. It's okay. Die poor. And some of you are going to actually believe what I just said. And a few of you are going to go, who is that Robert Allen guy? Who is he? How dare he challenge me? So go do it. Or not.